There is no excuse whatsoever to not have a culture of training inside any electrical contracting business. And I mean that from a one person to two person shop, 5, 10, 20, 100,000. It does not matter. At Energy Electric, we have worked very hard over the last few years, I suppose, to find a way to, I'd say, nurture a culture of training. And by that, I mean we get everybody involved in it. It's not designated as one person's responsibility. We recently held fire alarm training session at Energy Electric here in Foxborough on a Saturday. It was a 5 to 6 hour day. We provided food and we had about 48 of our staff come in, most of them unpaid for the day, to participate in a very well designed and structured training. It took a lot of time to prepare for that. There was a number of meetings before it to make sure it was what it needed to be. But it's part of our continued focus and developing our team and expanding our capabilities. I always tout how we pay our electricians well. We constantly look at ways of improving our abilities to share a piece of the pie, but with that comes a responsibility on the electrician to be getting involved in continuous education and making themselves better also. It's absolutely imperative, and that's what we do, because it's not a case of us handing out an hourly rate. It's not a case of us making sure our clients are just happy. It's about upskilling. It's about a constant effort to get better at what we do and challenging our people to get better at what they do in a structured and documented way. For fire alarms, sometimes I feel in the industry, fire alarm training and fire alarm work on our job sites can for some weird reason can scare a lot of people. It's a bunch of loops. It's a critical fire safety piece. It can be involved in many aspects of the project. You kind of bell out your loops and you figure out your devices, and at the end you go for turning on the system at the head end, and there can be problems with it if it's not done right, if you're not organized, if you don't take your time, label the cables, all of that. So we have found over the years that we've had to put a lot of effort into fire alarm training and creating fire alarm, I suppose, pools of talent in a number of areas across all of the areas that we serve. Because you do not want, and we do not want, and we try really hard to not have any electrician be kind of pigeonholed into being one expertise over another, unless that's what they want, right? If they're an industrial electrician, is a term I hear sometimes, well, that your electrician wants to get in and work on sizable electrical rooms, or work on big switchgear, or work on underground systems and some of that types of stuff, right? They want to be in that stuff. They don't want to be in a multifamily residential project, pulling cables, Romex or whatever. We try and cater to that, but we also, especially for our apprentices, expose them to many different types of work. And fire alarm is one of them, but you have to be structured in how you do that. And that's what this training was about. And I think it's a big piece of why, I suppose, we invest in our people. And it can hurt sometimes your EBITDA, right? It can hurt your profits in a way that it looks on paper, right? You look at the numbers and go, did we have to, put on that training? Did we have to spend that amount of overhead to get that training set up in the right way? Did we have to go out and buy all of the stations that you'll see in the footage of our training? Well, in my opinion, the return on investment on that is tenfold. It can be hard sometimes to see the quick return on investment, but in my opinion, you have to absolutely put that back into the people. And I think that's what it has been a big piece of our success, is that reinvestment, because it comes back to you tenfold. Because people who want to better themselves stay around, and they're the types of electrician, project managers, whoever it may be, whatever role they have, that you want around the place, is that people who want to be better. They want to get better at what they do. They want to have the training. They want to get the certifications. They want to upskill all the time. It's something that we talk about here too at Energy Electric as well. We do not like to say that an electrician, once they get their license in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Connecticut, wherever, that's it. I got my license now, I'm all set for the next 30 years. You're not at Energy Electric. You're going to be asked to upskill, or else it's just going to simply affect your increases when you sit down for your annual review every year. If you're going to sit there and be a regular electrician and sit and do your review and not much has changed in 12 months, you haven't really hit many goals, or you haven't really pushed any kind of new level, well then your review is going to reflect that. Whereas if you're constantly upskilling, you attended the training for the fire alarm, you're asking questions about low voltage work, you're talking about potentially leading crews, that's the type of individual that does very well and gets ahead of the curve, because that's what merit shops are about. That's what open shop electricians, electrical contracting companies are all about. It's pushing forward, which is, in my opinion, the name of the game for our industry, and what makes us better clients, better subcontractors to be able to produce a better service. This is a hands-on practical learning class that we did. And I say that earlier on when I talked about this. It's important that any electrical contractor, again, if you're a man in a van, a woman in a van, it does not matter. You could stop on a Friday afternoon or first thing on a Monday and do a 2-hour training session on how you want your load centers done, because you're maybe a high-end electrical contractor for residential. You should be allotting at least once a quarter 2 to 3 hours where you're training whoever you have in your staff on the type of standards that you expect of them. If you don't do that, how can you expect that work to be at the standards you expect? Yeah, you can do it in the moment. You can, train people, look over their shoulder, do all that. But if it's structured, then it can be something that people will respect and appreciate that you're doing, and they'll stay with you. So the hands-on practical training we did was we had a number of stations that were positioned in our warehouse, and what they represented was different types of devices, and we put them in a particular loop type system, and we'll show the paperwork that went with that. And what we did is we moved the groups from station to station to station, and each station we had a fire alarm, I suppose you would call it a subject matter expert that had been involved on job sites, had done this. Our general supers were heavily involved. Joel, one of our real talented fire alarm gurus, I would call him, was involved helping out with that. Mike Chase, there was some really good guys in there that were standing at these stations and taking each one of them and going through it in a methodical way to show how this particular station works. And what you're doing when you do that kind of practical training is you're taking the mystique away from these particular devices. Some of these, these would have never even seen these devices before, or how are they belled out? How do you know whether they're open or closed? How do you test them? What's the inspector looking for? When the fire department comes, what are they looking for? We talked about that at each station, and that practical learning is visual learning, and that's what apprenticeships really are about. Sitting with the code book is difficult for most people. Sitting at the code book and trying to find a particular, code requirement or designation to answer a question on a test, it's not what we do at Wallpipe. You don't see on the corner of our job sites too often the code book getting pulled out. What you do see a lot is up on top of a scissor lift, pulling fire alarm cable, trying to figure out which is the right terminations that I do here. How do I mark this cable correctly so that when someone else comes along that there's a standard there? All of that is what we did, and that's what I really loved with the work that the guys put in to this training. When people walked out of there, they literally had been involved in practical hands-on training that replicated any building that would be on any job site of ours, or any job site of anyone's. And it was real visual learning, and I could see the penny was dropping, and there was real attention, right? It wasn't a case of people just turning up, sitting in a classroom and nodding along, signing their name on the sheet and said, job done, box ticked. That's not what this was about. This was about real hands-on learning, and it was like very quick return on investment. In one example in particular, Carlos, who's in our service department, had a fire alarm service call that Tuesday after the Saturday training. And he said that if I hadn't done that training on Saturday, I wouldn't have even started to look and solve the problem, which he did on that job site. He solved that problem on that job site, he said, because of the training he had on the Saturday. I didn't expect to have a return on investment by Tuesday, but there you go. I got that feedback up the grapevine, and Carlos in particular is one of the types that would be engrossed in this and really would be paying attention, and is not afraid to get up and have a look and try and fix something, even though he'd only learned maybe a bit about it on a few days before. So that's not practically realistic for return on investment all of the time, but that is something that we saw very quickly. And I think that's something I think people have to understand, that who knows when it comes to that client that we had that time. Carlos could have just went and fixed that, impressed that particular client, how knowledgeable our electrician was in that particular issue, and who knows how much business we'll get out of that. Maybe it's the last call we'll ever do. But the training quickly showed a client of ours that we have talented, educated and ready to go electricians in our service department to fix their problem and get them back online. And that's really the essence of it all, is that we're able to put that training into a practical use quickly, and that people to have confidence in what they're learning. That's what I feel like the guys did a phenomenal job. So we will share in this in this video some of the screenshots of the training supplies and literature that we showed for that particular training that, again, I think was very easy to follow and something that can be thrown in the back of the van. I believe the guys laminated a lot of the training supplies so that they can be put in the back of a van, the back of a car, truck, so that if you were on your break or heading home or you're sitting in the driveway that morning knowing that you're heading to something or you're at something that is fire alarm orientated, it's there to jog your memory of what you learned that day. So as I said, we're kind of in a very good groove as regards training. Adam Snow, as our Director of Training and Safety, has a plan in place, and we're executing on that as regards our field leadership development program. And this was one of the aspects of it that I really feel is something that we did a really good job on and execute. And it is not easy. Let me be honest with that. Putting the people together to make this happen. Everybody here is busy. And you'll find that if you're trying to do training at your company, everybody is busy. But if you structure it, you show the value in it, people will buy in. And Adam had to crack the whip a bit. Adam had to get people focused, had to say, we have a date, here's the Saturday, it's coming, it's going to happen, we're not kicking it off. And all of a sudden, when the pressure comes on, people started producing what they needed to. So it was really cool to see that coming through. And I gotta say, it's like when I was standing there Saturday morning watching the team doing what they were doing, hearing all the different fire alarms going off and hearing all the different chatter in the room, there was great energy there, right? And pardon the pun, but great energy in the room to see that many people turn up on a Saturday. I thought we'd get 15 to 20. To see 40 plus was just really, really, really good to see. And it tells you the health of your company, right? That's the other piece of it too, right? It sees that people took enough, I suppose, time to take it out of their Saturday to come in, meaning they had a confidence in us to be able to have something that was worthwhile for them to not have their Saturday, which everyone's, I personally used to hate working Saturdays. So I really do appreciate when people get up early on a Saturday morning and shorten their weekend to make themselves better electricians. So our goals moving forward is to continue on this path. We have many other trainings that are coming together. We have a training group that meets regularly to talk about the curriculums that we're trying to build. This is a side to our school that obviously is incoming right now. But overall, I think there is no excuse. Let me finish. There is no excuse for any company. If you're listening right now, I don't care how big you are. If you're an electrician at your company, go talk to someone about why do we not have a training class coming up. Have we not got any electricians that know about many aspects of the trade that could teach us? Because that's the other piece that I'll finish with. The electricians in their latter years are very, very hungry to share the wisdom they've built up. They only are waiting to be asked. But you have to ask them, and then you have to structure it, and then you have to execute. It takes a bit of time, but if you are serious about building a company in any aspects of the trades that is going to execute at a high level, if you're not doing training the way that, in any way, and go make mistakes, right? Our training wasn't perfect, but we have kind of started to hone it now. We're starting to get into a bit of a groove. A lot of the devices, a lot of the things that you use, the systems, the email templates, all of that, they're created now once you start. So there's no excuse. Get started, make your mistakes with it. It can only get better, but no excuse whatsoever. So I was delighted with that. Training will continue to be a critical piece of what we do moving forward. It is the basis of everything we do. Absolutely 100% the foundation of the work we do is education and training, and that's tied to everything, whether it be safety, any other aspects of it. It starts in training, it starts in document that, in structuring that. So yeah, that's how Energy Electric executes on training. In particular, this fire alarm training was a huge success for us, and many more are coming our way.